37 past the hour. There appears to be an end to the halt of reported Israeli airstrikes targeting Hezbollah weapons in Syria. The Syrian government is accusing the country of carrying out strikes near an airport and is urging the UN to take action. Here with us now, Israeli Minister of the Economy, Naftali Bennett. Very good to have you on the show this morning.
Morning.
Mr. Minister, thank you so much for being with us. A lot to talk about today. I'm not sure exactly where we start, so let's talk about, we always talk about how chaotic our government is and dysfunctional it is. It's good to have you on. We can talk about what happened over there.
Things in perspective.
Benjamin Netanyahu blew everything up as far as the cabinet, and I guess elections coming in March.
Yeah, we're going to general elections in March. I think it's going to be pretty much about what our stance in the region should be. Should we be on the strong and tough side or on the appeasing side? There's basically two approaches in Israel. If one approach says, we're in this mess of a region with ISIS and Hezbollah and Hamas, and we just got to stand tough. The other approach says we need to try and pacify the region, and somehow they'll love us enough to accept the Jewish state.
I don't have to ask where you are.
Yeah, you don't have to ask. It was sort of a leading comment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So let's talk about the backbiting in Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet. What caused it?
Well, there was a lot of tension regarding the latest conflict, and I guess just interpersonal problems in the government. And I guess he was fed up with all of this and said, let's go back to the people and ask them for renewed vow.
Yep.
Well, there's some controversy going on with this nationality bill that is being discussed or being proposed. I was wondering, what's your take on that? There's some criticism that it's going to alienate Israel, pushing it further away from democracy, making it a state only for the Jewish population, not the minority Arabs. And that was one of the reasons why this cabinet collapsed.
Well, my stance is very simple. Israel is a Jewish and democratic state, period. It's the state of the Jewish nation. We're surrounded by 23 Arab states and Muslim states. We only have one tiny Jewish state, which, by the way, from one side to another, if you get in a car, you know how long a drive it is? 15 minutes. That's how big Israel is from side to side, from the ocean to the Green Line. 15-minute ride. It's almost a bit more than Manhattan. And so, yeah, we're the state of the Jews, all right? The Jews only have one state in the world, and it's democratic. We have 2 million Arabs who enjoy full equal rights. They vote for the Knesset. They become members of Knesset. We have Arab Supreme Court judges, and it should be so. As Minister of Economy, I've worked very hard to bring in the Arab women population into the workforce. We only had 25% of them working compared to almost 80%. Right. So I've set up employment centers and training centers across Israel. Now we're up to 30%. I want to bring it up to 80%.
Let's look at politics there. The Secretary of State, John Kerry, said he would not interfere at all in the Israeli elections. What influence or support are you looking for from the United States?
None in the sense of, I don't think any country should intervene in another country's internal democratic process. In the past, it's even backlashed. Sometimes there was external intervention, which brought the opposite result. So
I was going to ask, I don't know that John Kerry's endorsement would actually help right now, given the last 6 months. Would you like, we know, and we could ask him to endorse you. Would you like that?
I do want a good future in the Israeli political system. I think Israelis, like many other countries, when there's external pressure, we sort of bounce back. And America is Israel's best friend. We don't have anyone like America in the world that understands that in the midst of this Muslim spring and chaos of ISIS, Hezbollah, and Hamas cutting off heads, there's one tower of democracy smack in the middle, and that's Israel.
Let's talk about this summer and obviously concerns from John Kerry and the president. You go back to July, and we were watching horrific images coming out of Gaza day in and day out. I've long been a strong Israeli supporter, but I voiced real concerns on there about the images that I was seeing. Looking back over the summer, is there something that Israel could have done differently? Somehow they could have managed that crisis better?
We need to have it shorter. First of all, we need to avoid having any conflict. Unfortunately, I served in pretty much every military conflict as a soldier and commander. No one wants war. Problem is simple. The Palestinians keep on placing missile launchers within schools, within homes, and then they shoot at my kid's house. And at my children.
I certainly,
What do you do?
I certainly understand that, but there were obviously a lot of warnings about the United Nations school. We've heard repeated warnings time and time again. And it seemed to me, again, as somebody who's consistently been a supporter of Israel, that this time Israel ignored some warnings that it shouldn't have ignored, and people died because of it. Is that fair to say that some pretty big mistakes were made?
I think the big mistake was by Hamas, who placed in the UN camps, in hospitals, in schools, it placed missile launchers and shot missiles into Israel. That's the story.
Right.
And then we shot back. And yes, there was, unfortunately, a lot of death. But it's Hamas who's butchering its own people by placing a missile launcher. Imagine if you walk on the streets of New York and someone's standing behind his kids and shooting at you, at your kids. You'll shoot back. He's killing his own kids. Hamas was killing their own children by doing that. It's very unfortunate, but Israel will always defend itself.
I know you're not a political analyst. Instead, you're a minister of economy, but I'm asking you to be a political analyst right now. The prime minister obviously believes he can put together a different kind of coalition in the election you guys are going to have in March. Just talk about the political dynamics there. Like, has Israeli public opinion has shifted further far enough to the right that the prime minister can build a government that's more to his liking?
I think that's pretty much the idea. What happened during the last summer is there was a profound sea change in the Israeli public. I would say about 10% movement to the right because Israelis were disillusioned. Let's understand what happened. We gave up Gaza. We pulled out. We expelled 8,000 Jews from their homes. There's no soldiers, no Jews. We gave 100% of the Gaza Strip to the Palestinians, to Abu Mazen, to Fatah in 2005. And now from that very place, they're shooting tens of thousands of missiles at us. So when you look at the facts, it's sort of people say, what's the deal? Why do we do this? People less believe in this giving up more land approach. And just understand that
how do you break the continued cycle of violence? How do you do it?
You know,
it seems to me you've got one of two choices. You either figure out a way to negotiate with Hamas or you obliterate Hamas.
Or you just stand tough. You know, not every problem in life has a perfect solution. We are in a very difficult region. We're building our economy.
There's no doubt about it.
Strong.
There's no doubt about it. And certainly one of my pet peeves through the years have been American politicians that have tried to win Nobel Peace Prizes on the backs of Israeli security. So I understand completely. That said, standing tough, maintaining the status quo, continues a cycle of terror on both sides.
Not necessarily. I believe that we have to do sort of an economic Marshall Plan in the region. We can't solve it politically in the short term. Everyone understands that. But it doesn't mean we have to sit on our hands. We need to invest in infrastructure common for Palestinians and Israelis, and joint businesses which are really working pretty well.
Can I
ask
Eamon about this? Because
sure.
I sit there and look at this violence, the horrific conditions that the Gazans are living in. And I sit here and wonder what the world community can do to improve the economy there and talk about sort of a mini Marshall Plan for Gaza. Is that would that have an impact?
It would absolutely have an impact. I think when the quality of life gets better for people, you're going to see a change in the attitudes. But with all due respect to the minister, there is a certain problem with Gaza, and that is it's an area that remains under siege. It's true that Israel withdrew its soldiers and its settlers, but Israel still controls the territorial waters, the airspace, pretty much all of the economic aspects of development in Gaza. But not only Gaza, if you take a look also at the West Bank, obviously Israel has an ally or at least a partner in the West Bank with the Palestinian Authority, some would like to argue, but it hasn't improved the economic situation for Palestinians.
Well, I actually beg to differ on both. In Gaza, our policy is simple. Open up for any civilian use. Food, water, anything they need is fully open, but if they want to import missiles or cement to dig tunnels into Israel, which they did. You know, they've spent the past 5 years taking all that cement and building terror tunnels into our kibbutzim instead of hospitals. They have to make a decision. If they want to build Gaza, if they want to turn Gaza into Singapore, I will be their biggest ally. If they want to turn it into Afghanistan, no way.
And quickly on the West Bank, talk about
West Bank, I also disagree. West Bank is going through a very good economic growth. It's true, the Palestinian Authority, it's a pretty corrupt authority. They take all the money the world pours in to their pockets. But the people there, they want to thrive. They want to, and today already 30,000 Palestinians are working side by side with Israelis. Why can't it be 300 Palestinians? Let's make life better for 10 years instead of all these diplomatic stuff. And let's revisit the whole thing in 10 years with everyone having a better quality of life.
Unfortunately, we have to leave it there because this is a fascinating conversation. Naftali Bennett, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll work on that John Kerry endorsement.
Yeah.